"Your methods are too traditional for our new direction," she said during my termination. "We need digital-first leadership." My name is Ryan Walsh. For 15 years, I led the Midwest sales division of Oaklight Publishing, based in Indianapolis. I built that team from the ground up, turning a floundering region into the company's top revenue generator. I didn't rely on dashboards or automation, just relationships, handshakes, and an instinct for knowing which publishers needed what, when. By last year, my division was bringing in 60% of the entire company's revenue. Not that anyone at the executive level seemed to care, until those quarterly reports landed on their desks. When Veronica Bennett took over as CEO 6 months ago, she brought with her PowerPoint decks and consultants in $5,000 suits. Every meeting suddenly became about digital transformation and disrupting the publishing model. She'd never worked in publishing before, came from some startup in San Francisco. But the board loved her energy and her so-called vision. I kept my head down and kept delivering. But I could feel it, her eyes on me during leadership meetings. I was the oldest director in the room, the only one who still kept a paper calendar and met clients face-to-face instead of over Zoom. The meeting invite came on a Monday. Her assistant, Jason, looked uncomfortable when he showed up in my office. "She'd like to see you at 2. Executive boardroom." I nodded and returned to my call with Franklin Press, our biggest client. We were finalizing a 5-year renewal worth $12 million. The kind of deal that only happened because I'd had dinner with Thomas Franklin every quarter for a decade. The boardroom had changed since Veronica arrived. Glass walls, modern furniture, and a massive screen where the old oak table used to sit. She was already there with Jason and someone from HR I didn't recognize. I knew what was coming. "Ryan, thank you for everything you've done for Oaklight," she began, hands folded, eyes steady. "But we're moving in a different direction." I listened quietly as she explained how my approach didn't align with their digital-first model, how they needed someone with a fresher outlook, someone younger, though she never said that part out loud. I thanked her, shook her hand, walked out without a scene. 15 years ended in 15 minutes. What she didn't understand, what the board didn't get, was that in publishing, especially with the legacy houses that made up 80% of our revenue, trust isn't built with email campaigns or data models. It's earned with consistency, FaceTime, and showing up when it matters. I cleaned out my office while the team was at lunch. No big farewell, no speech, just quiet closure. When I got to my car, I sat there a long time. 3 missed calls from Thomas Franklin. Word had already spread. I started at Oaklight back when it was still called Midwestern Literary Partners. We were just 20 employees and a handful of clients then. I'd left a corner office and 6-figure salary at Heritage Books after it got swallowed by a corporate giant. I couldn't stand what big publishing was doing to the industry. Robert Oaklight hired me personally. "We don't need someone to crunch numbers," he told me. "We need someone who remembers books are made by people who care about what's between the covers." For the first 5 years, I rebuilt that territory one relationship at a time. Drove 70,000 miles in a single year, visiting every indie publisher between Ohio and Nebraska. I knew their spouses' names, their kids. I went to their weddings, their funerals, their retirements. Not for strategy, because that's how we did things. By the time Robert retired and his son William took over, we'd grown 400%. William understood the business, even if he cared more about margins than his father had. But he trusted me. Let me do my job. 3 years ago, when the board started whispering about modernization and external leadership, William fought them. But then cancer took him at 58, and with him went the last person who defended the way we used to work. The cracks began showing before they even noticed. Veronica was barely settled in before the boardroom buzzword started. Every meeting I wasn't in seemed to include the word antiquated. Questions floated around about why my team hadn't leveraged social media better or implemented CRM optimization. Jacob, my assistant director, the one I'd been grooming to take over someday, started getting invited to strategy sessions I wasn't even told about. He'd come back from those meetings with an uneasy look, clearly uncomfortable being used as a messenger. "They're talking about restructuring," he told me 6 months ago. "A separate digital sales team, that won't report through your division. I should have seen the writing on the wall then. Should have taken it seriously when they hired 3 digital engagement specialists and parked them under my org without a word. Or when they reassigned some of my legacy clients to those new hires without any explanation. Thomas Franklin had called me directly when they pulled his account. Some kid called today, he said, told me he was my new account manager. Said they're streamlining the customer interface or whatever that means. What's going on over there, Ryan? Just some reorganization, I told him, trying to sound steady. Nothing to worry about. But I was worried. I just didn't know how to fight a battle where the weapons being used weren't even visible to me. The day after I was let go, I sat in my home office, staring at my phone. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 emails marked urgent. All from clients, partners, and industry contacts who had already heard. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even Catherine, who was visiting our daughter in Columbus. I needed to sit with it alone first. The call that finally made me pick up came from Thomas Franklin. What the hell happened? He asked, no greeting, just fire. They're going in a new direction, I replied, repeating the line I'd been given. Thomas swore. You are that company to most of us. Do they not get that? I didn't respond. I met that new guy yesterday. Drew something. Spent 40 minutes walking me through dashboards and metrics. Not once did he ask about our historical fiction imprint, the one I told you could make or break our whole year. I closed my eyes, exhausted in a way that sleep wouldn't fix. They'll figure it out, Thomas. No, he said flatly, they won't. People like that never bother to learn what matters. They just push a system and expect everyone to adapt. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and looked at the severance email from Oaklight HR. 6 months pay, 90 days of health insurance, and a non-disparagement clause. The kicker? A non-compete that blocked me from working with any of our clients for a full year. I almost laughed out loud. They thought a single document could erase relationships I'd built over decades. The phone buzzed again. Elena Jenkins from Riverstone Press. Another major client. Another friend I'd worked with for years. I heard what happened, she said when I answered. It's their loss. When you're ready to talk about what's next, call me. By the end of the day, I'd heard from 12 major clients. Combined, they represented more than 40% of Oaklight's annual revenue. They weren't calling to say goodbye. They were waiting to see where I'd land. I sat in the backyard as the sun dipped low, bourbon in hand, and turned over a thought that had started small but kept growing stronger with every message and call. They let me go because I didn't fit their slick digital vision. Because I built connections instead of dashboards. Because my client notes were handwritten instead of logged in Salesforce. But what if those outdated methods were exactly what my clients valued? What if what Veronica Bennett dismissed as a weakness was actually my greatest strength? I picked up my phone and dialed my attorney. Ben, it's Ryan. I need you to look at something for me. A non compete clause. They let you go? He asked, surprised. They did. And I think it might be the best thing that's ever happened to me. I wasn't chasing revenge. I just wanted to keep doing what I'd always done, helping publishers connect with the right people. And if Oaklight Publishing didn't want that anymore, maybe someone else would. Maybe I'd build it myself. Light didn't value the kind of service anymore, but plenty of others still did. That night, for the first time since the termination meeting, I slept through without waking once. 2 weeks later, I met Benjamin at his downtown office. He'd gone through the non-compete clause with a fine-tooth comb and had news I hadn't expected. It's essentially unenforceable, he said, sliding the document across his desk. They overreached. The scope is too broad, the duration too long, and most importantly, they can't stop you from using your general knowledge in the same field. So I could start my own consulting firm? I asked. You could, Benjamin nodded. But there's a catch. They'll still sue you if you make a move. Even if they lose, they'll drag it out. Expensive. Messy. I considered that. Oaklight had resources, and I knew they'd use them to box out anyone they saw as a threat. What if I don't approach any clients? I asked. What if I just become available? Benjamin smiled. That's a different story entirely. The next day, I filed paperwork for Walsh Publishing Consultants. No website. No announcement. No cold calls. Just a legitimate legal entity that could accept payment and offer services. That was enough. 3 days later, Thomas Franklin called. "I hear you set up shop," he said without preamble. "News travels fast," I replied. "In this business? Like wildfire. Listen, I need help with our winter catalog strategy. Oaklight's new team is pushing academic markets, but I think we should double down on historical fiction. I need someone who knows the numbers and the audience." "I'm still figuring things out, Thomas." 15 grand. 2 months of guidance. No overlap with Oaklight services. Just you helping us think clearly. It was a generous offer. Careful, too. Crafted to avoid legal fire. But I still paused. "I need to think about it." "Don't take too long," Thomas warned. "We're finalizing next week." Not long after, my phone rang again. Jacob, my former assistant director. "Can we meet?" he asked quietly. "Not at the office. Somewhere out of the way." We met at a small cafe near Eagle Creek Park, far from downtown. Jacob looked nervous, eyes flicking toward the windows every few seconds. "It's bad," he said once we settled in. "They promoted me into your role, but I'm not making any decisions. The new digital team runs everything." "I figured," I said. "No, you don't get it. They're tearing down everything you built. All your major accounts? Reassigned. They're pushing this mandatory CRM system that none of the veteran reps can figure out. 3 people have quit already." I took a sip of my coffee, keeping my face neutral. "And the clients?" Jacob glanced around and leaned in closer. "They're pissed. Riverstone's threatening to leave. Thomas Franklin hasn't taken a call in over a week. The quarterly numbers are tanking. And Veronica? She's blaming the transition. Says it's all expected turbulence." He hesitated. "But there's more. They're watching you. Legal had a meeting yesterday. They're scared you're going to start poaching." Now his anxiety made sense. He was putting himself at risk to warn me. "Thanks, Jacob. I mean it." He nodded and slid an envelope across the table. "Client contact list. Personal emails. Cell numbers." He stood. "I didn't give you this. And we never had this conversation." He walked out. I sat there for a long time, the envelope in my hands. Inside was everything they feared I'd use, and exactly what they expected me to. If I opened it, they'd have the perfect excuse to come after me. Maybe even Jacob. They'd laid the trap, which meant I needed to take a different path altogether. I stood up, left the envelope sitting on the table, and walked away. A month passed. I hadn't contacted any Oaken Light clients, despite daily calls from publishers asking for guidance. I deflected each one politely, citing professional boundaries. The non-compete might not hold up in court, but I wasn't ready to gamble with it just yet. Instead, I focused on other corners of the industry, contacts outside Oaken Light's portfolio. Small independents, university presses, literary agents needing market insight. Work that kept me sharp, legal, and connected to the business I loved. Then came the invitation I hadn't expected. Harold Blackwood, chairman of Oaken Light's board, requested a private meeting. Not at the office, at his club downtown. I accepted, mostly out of curiosity. The Indianapolis Gentlemen's Association was all dark oak, hushed conversations, and legacy. Harold, 70 and silver-haired, waited in a private room with 2 glasses of scotch already poured. "Thank you for coming, Ryan," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I imagine you're wondering why I wanted this meeting." "The thought crossed my mind," I replied. He pushed one glass toward me. "Things at Oaken Light aren't going as expected." I took a small sip, but stayed silent. "Revenue is down 38% this quarter," Harold continued. "Client retention has hit an all-time low. The digital initiative that was meant to reinvent us has alienated our foundation instead." "That's unfortunate," I said evenly. Harold studied me. "You don't seem surprised. Publishing is a relationship business. Always has been. So I'm learning," he murmured, leaning forward slightly. "The board is increasingly concerned about Veronica's leadership. Her methods might work in Silicon Valley, but publishing's a different beast. Why are you telling me this?" "Because we'd like you to come back." He paused. "As Chief Revenue Officer, you'd be reporting above Veronica." I stared at him. "What about Jacob?" "Jacob's a good man," Harold said, "but he doesn't have your relationships or experience." "And Veronica?" she'd accept that structure. Harold's face hardened. She wouldn't have a choice. The pieces began falling into place. This wasn't about one bad quarter. It had been brewing. This has been building for a while, I said. Harold exhaled, the polished mask slipping. Veronica was William's choice, his final big move before the cancer got worse. The board had concerns, but we deferred to him out of respect. After he passed, we gave her space. She's lost our confidence. And my termination, not board approved. We found out after the fact. Same with several other internal changes. I leaned back, seeing it now. Veronica wasn't trying to modernize. She was clearing out William's people and surrounding herself with loyalists. My firing wasn't strategic, it was political. The offer is substantial, Harold continued. Double your previous salary. Full control of client relationships and the team. And the board's support to rebuild. It was everything I should have wanted: validation, power, security. I need time to think, I said finally. Of course, but don't wait too long. We're unraveling quickly. On the drive home, the conversation looped in my mind. The board hadn't just realized their mistake. They'd known all along, but stayed quiet until the losses began piling up. Now they wanted me back. But there was something else Harold hadn't said, something I still understood clearly. They wanted me to do their cleanup, to return, gut Veronica's initiatives, and eventually, Veronica herself. They didn't want Ryan Walsh the builder. They wanted Ryan the hammer. And I wasn't angry. I was clear. I declined Harold's offer the next morning. A short, polite email. His reply landed minutes later. A counteroffer. Increased the compensation package further. I didn't reply. Instead, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Thomas Franklin. I'm ready to discuss that consulting arrangement, I told him. But I'd like to suggest a different approach. I'm listening, he said. I won't consult exclusively for Franklin Press. Instead, I'm forming a collective, a consortium of independent publishers who share resources, distribution networks, and market intelligence. No long-term contracts, no corporate red tape. Just publishers helping publishers, with me connecting the dots. There was a pause on the line. How many others have you pitched this to? None yet. You're the first call. Because I was your biggest client? Because I trust your judgment, I said. If you think it works, I'll pursue it. If not, I'll stick to traditional consulting. Thomas didn't hesitate. I'm in, and I know at least 5 others who will be too. My second call was to Eleanor Jenkins at Riverstone Press. As expected, she loved the idea, then took it further. She proposed a shared digital infrastructure that would let small publishers scale without giving up their independence. The third call was to Benjamin, my attorney. I walked him through the concept. You're not poaching their clients, he confirmed. You're creating a new entity. If their clients choose to join, that's on them. It's legally solid. Within 2 weeks, Walsh Publishing Consortium had 7 founding members, former Oakenlight clients, all either already gone or counting down their exit dates. Each chipped into fund operations, including my salary and core infrastructure. But this wasn't just about building a competitor. It was about building something Oakenlight couldn't copy, a cooperative model where independence met collaboration. No one called me CEO. I didn't want a title. I was simply the facilitator, the one who understood what each member needed and how to bridge those gaps. We opened a modest office in Broad Ripple, well away from the downtown towers where Oakenlight and the others camped out. I hired 2 people, a recent college grad to manage communications and a retired ops veteran who wasn't quite ready to hang it up. The publishing world talks fast. Within a month, 3 more publishers joined. By the second, we'd outgrown our office, and I never once reached out to an Oakenlight client. I didn't need to. They came on their own, drawn by word of mouth and frustrated with the new digital-first model that ignored the soul of publishing, relationships. Jacob called one evening in late September, 2 months in. They know what you're doing, he said. Veronica's furious. She's hinting at legal action. We haven't violated anything, I replied calmly. That won't stop her from trying. He hesitated. There's a board meeting tomorrow. Q3 results. It's going to be ugly. That's not my concern anymore, Jacob. I know, but I thought you should know. And I wanted to ask, would you have space for one more? I've hit my limit. I smiled. This wasn't revenge. It was recognition. I understood the business in a way Veronica never could. Come by tomorrow, I said. We'll talk. October's earnings call told the story in numbers. Oaken Light reported a 45% revenue decline year over year. Their stock dropped 17% in a single day. I didn't listen to the call myself. I was in a strategy meeting with 15 consortium members. We were finalizing our collective approach for the upcoming industry conference in Chicago. Thomas texted me the highlights from Oaken Light's earnings call. Veronica blaming market shifts and transitional turbulence. No mention, of course, that their top clients had walked away. Later that afternoon, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Ryan Walsh?" a woman asked. "Speaking. This is Patricia Harrington from the Oaken Light Board of Directors," she said crisply. "I'm calling to inform you that we've voted to waive your non-compete agreement effective immediately. We've also authorized our legal team to prepare a cease and desist regarding what we consider interference with our client relationships." I let the silence hang. "Do you have any response, Mr. Walsh?" "Just one question," I said. "Have you actually spoken to your clients? Not through account managers or metrics. Sat down with Thomas Franklin or Eleanor Jenkins and asked them why they left." "That's not relevant to." "It's the only thing that's relevant," I interrupted. "They didn't leave because I built something new. They left because Oaken Light stopped caring about what mattered to them." "The board meeting is still in session," she replied after a beat. "Perhaps you'd care to join us and explain your perspective directly?" "I appreciate the invite," I said, "but I'm in the middle of my own meeting with 15 publishers who've chosen a different path." She went quiet, long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "I see," she said finally, and hung up. The cease and desist never arrived. 3 days later, the Indianapolis Star business section ran the headline: "Oaken Light CEO steps down amid financial turbulence." 6 months after founding Walsh Publishing Consortium, we moved into permanent offices inside a renovated warehouse in Fountain Square. 23 member publishers with a waiting list. We'd expanded beyond Indiana, partnering with small and mid-sized publishers across the Midwest. The industry had noticed. Publishers Weekly, New York Times Business. One called it the relationship revolution in publishing. I hadn't meant to spark a movement, just to preserve what worked. But sometimes the old ways become radical again when people remember why they mattered in the first place. Harold Blackwood called me on a quiet Tuesday morning. Oaken Light had a new CEO now, someone promoted from within, a decades-long veteran. "We'd like to discuss the possibility of Oaken Light joining your consortium," Harold said, straight to the point. I smiled. "That's not how it works, Harold. We don't bring in members your size." "Then perhaps a partnership arrangement?" "I'll bring it to our leadership council," I said, though I already knew how it would go. The publishers who joined us did, so to get away from the very structure Oaken Light still represented. After the call, I walked through our open office. No executive suite for me. Just a desk among the rest. I like being part of the conversation. Jacob looked up from his screen. "Everything all right?" "Just fine," I said. "Oaken Light wants to join the consortium." He laughed. Talk about full circle. That afternoon, I drove to Eagle Creek Park and sat beside the water, the same place I used to come when Oaken Light problems felt too heavy to carry. But now, there were no fires to put out, no damage control, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that what I built would outlast me. Not because it was flashy or disruptive, but because it was grounded in something real. People trusting people who'd earned it. Sometimes, getting fired is the best thing that can happen. Not because it leads to payback, but because it gives you the chance to build something more honest than what you left behind.